A woman hears a voice coming from the walls of her new home, and it seems to know everything about her. After a bitter divorce, Caroline was ready for a fresh start. She had spent months searching for a new home, hoping it would offer the peace and solace she needed to heal. When she found the quaint old house nestled at the end of a quiet street, she knew it was the one. The walls seemed to whisper promises of a new beginning, a fresh chapter. She moved in with the hope of shedding her past and finding herself again. The house was everything she wanted. Rustic, spacious, and full of charm. It was the perfect place to start over. Yet, on the first night, after the boxes were unpacked and she finally sank into her bed, something felt off. At first, it was just a faint creak in the wall. Caroline tried to dismiss it as the house settling, but as the night deepened, the creaks turned into whisper. At first, she thought it was the wind, the old wooden beams groaning under the pressure of the chill night air. But no, these sounds were different. They were words, soft, unintelligible whispers that seemed to creep from the walls, as though they were alive. Caroline pulled the covers tighter around her and closed her eyes, trying to convince herself it was nothing. She had just moved in, she was exhausted, and the house was old. But the whispers didn't stop. They lingered in the silence, growing louder. Caroline, her heart skipped a beat. It was her name, spoken in a voice she couldn't place. Gentle, but laced with an eerie familiarity. Her body stiffened, and she opened her eyes, scanning the dimly lit room. No one was there. She was alone, or was she? The voice spoke again, this time clearer. "I know everything about you." She sat up abruptly, her mind racing. She was alone in the room, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching her. She tried to convince herself it was just her imagination playing tricks on her, the stress of the divorce and the move causing her to lose her grip on reality. But the voice didn't go away. Over the next few nights, the whispers became impossible to ignore. They followed her from room to room, calling her name, murmuring things she couldn't quite understand. Each night, the voice grew more insistent, more personal. It seemed to know things about her past, things she hadn't shared with anyone, not even her closest friends. It knew about the childhood trauma she had never spoken of, the secret she had buried deep within herself after the divorce. At first, she brushed it off as a result of the emotional toll she had been under. Maybe it was stress, or perhaps she was losing her mind. But then the voice spoke again, and this time, it made her blood run cold. "I know what happened that night." Caroline froze. That night. The one night she had never dared to revisit. The night that had torn her life apart. No one knew about that. How could it? She hadn't told a soul. She felt a chill crawl up her spine, and the walls around her seemed to close in. The whispers started again, this time clearer, more deliberate. "Tell me what happened, Caroline. Tell me what you did." Her hands trembled as she sat frozen in place. The voice continued, unraveling pieces of her past she had kept buried for years. It spoke of her mother's sudden death when she was just a child, the strange occurrences in their house back then. It spoke of the abuse she had suffered at the hands of her ex-husband. Every secret, every hidden truth was being pulled from her, laid bare by this unseen voice. Desperate to escape the suffocating weight of the voice in her walls, Caroline spent hours searching the house during the day. She checked every corner, every room, every crack in the foundation, found nothing. No hidden speakers, no wires, no evidence of any sort of device that could explain the voice. It was as if the house itself had become a living, breathing entity, one that knew her more intimately than she knew herself. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew more insistent, more urgent. The voice started giving her cryptic warnings about things that hadn't happened yet, things that would come to pass. "Do not go into the attic. Do not trust the man at your door. He is not who he seems." At first, Caroline ignored these warnings, dismissing them as the product of her imagination, a mind unraveling from the pressure of everything she had been through. But then, one evening, a knock came at her door. She froze, the voice's words echoing in her mind. "Do not trust the man at your door." Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly approached the door. Through the peephole, she saw a man standing there, his face hidden in shadow. His presence was familiar, yet she couldn't place him. Her pulse quickened. Could this be the man the voice had warned her about? With trembling hands, she opened the door, but when she did, there was no one there. Just an empty porch, the wind rustling through the trees. Confused and shaken, Caroline decided to investigate further. She began tearing apart the walls of her home, convinced that the house itself held the key to the mystery. And then, in a hidden compartment within the old walls, she found something that made her blood run cold. A stack of old photographs yellowed with age. But they weren't just any photographs. They were of her, Caroline. Images of her at different stages of her life, some she had never seen before. Each photograph was more unsettling than the last, depicting moments of her life she had long forgotten. There were pictures of her as a child, images of her in her teenage years, and even photos from her troubled marriage. But there was one photo that stood out. It was a picture of her as an adult, standing in the very room she now occupied. It had been taken in the dead of night, the flash of the camera illuminating her face. But in the background, there was something else, something she couldn't explain. A shadow, lurking just beyond the frame, its shape too indistinct to make out. The voice spoke again, its tone darker this time. "You have to remember. You have to know the truth." The voice claimed to be someone she once knew, someone she had long forgotten. But no matter how hard she tried, Caroline couldn't place the name. Who could this voice be? And why was it haunting her? As the days passed, the voice grew more persistent. It guided her to uncover a dark family secret, one buried deep within the walls of her new home. It spoke of betrayal, of a crime that had been covered up for years. And slowly, Caroline began to piece together the truth. Her great-grandmother, who had lived in this house decades ago, had committed a terrible crime. She had murdered someone close to Caroline's own family, and buried the body somewhere within the wall. The voice was not a ghost, but a lingering presence tied to the crime that had been hidden for so long. Caroline realized with horror that the voice wasn't just trying to tell her the truth. It was trying to pull her toward a fate she couldn't escape, the same fate that had claimed her great-grandmother, the same fate that had driven her ancestors to madness. In that moment, Caroline faced a choice. She could confront the voice, face the horrifying truth, and perhaps break the cycle of madness that had haunted her family for generations. Or she could leave, abandon the house, and forget everything she had uncovered. But she knew she couldn't outrun her past forever. As the whispers grew louder, the walls of her home seemed to close in around her. She couldn't escape. The truth was waiting, and there was nowhere to run. If you enjoyed this chilling tale of secrets, fate, and the voice that refuses to be silenced, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to ring the bell so you never miss an episode of eerie horror and twisted mysteries.